My name is Isabella Brown. I'm 29 years old. 5 years ago, my father removed me from his life. His name is Daniel Brown, founder of Brown Holdings. He built a logistics company from scratch and turned it into a national network. My mother is Laura Brown. She handled contracts, payroll, and clients while he expanded. For 22 years, they worked as a team. Then he ended it in 1 week. He came home with a woman named Claire Dawson. She moved in the same day. 2 days later, her son Ethan moved into my room. My mother was told to leave. No legal fight. No shared assets. Everything was under his name. She packed in silence. I watched. I asked him one question. Why now? He answered without pause. Because this is better for me. That was the last honest sentence he gave me. I stayed for 2 weeks after that. During those 2 weeks, my position changed fast. I stopped being introduced as his daughter. At dinner, I sat last. My things were moved to storage without asking. Claire handled the house. Her son called it his home. My father approved everything. One night, I tried again. You're replacing us. He didn't deny it. I'm optimizing my life. That word stayed with me. Optimizing. I left the next morning. 1 suitcase. No savings. I went to my mother. She was in a 1-bedroom apartment. 2nd floor. No elevator. She didn't ask questions. She gave me half the bed. That night, we didn't talk. We didn't need to. If you've ever been pushed out, replaced, or underestimated, take 1 second. Like the video. Write a comment. Subscribe. It helps more than you think. And this story doesn't end where it starts. The first year was survival. I worked 2 jobs. Day, assistant in a small law office. Night, bookkeeping for a local repair company. I tracked numbers all day. I learned contracts at night. I watched how businesses failed. Late payments, bad structure, hidden liabilities, patterns repeated. I started writing everything down. Mistakes, loopholes, timing. After 6 months, I stopped just observing. I started helping. Small fixes first, correcting invoices, renegotiating one supplier contract. The owner noticed. He gave me more access. I took it. Within a year, his company stabilized. Cash flow improved. Debt reduced. I asked for equity instead of a raise. He agreed. It was small, but it was mine. That was the first asset I owned. At the same time, I tracked my father. Not emotionally, strategically. Public records, industry news, company filings. Brown Holdings was growing. New contracts, expansion into 3 states. But growth leaves traces. And pressure points. I saw one. A subsidiary handling regional transport. Fast growth. Weak structure. High revenue. Low control. That kind of imbalance always breaks. I kept watching. Year 2. I left my 2nd job. I focused fully on restructuring small businesses. Word spread. 3 clients became 7. 7 became 12. Each deal gave me 2 things. Money. Information. I built a network. Lawyers. Accountants. Mid-level managers. People who knew how companies actually worked. Not the image. The system. Year 3. I created my own firm. Brown Advisory Group. I kept the name. Not for pride. For positioning. People recognized it. They assumed connection. I didn't correct them. That gave me access. That same year, I saw the first crack in his system. One of his partners filed a dispute. Delayed payments. Misreported costs. Small issue on paper. Big signal underneath. I looked deeper. The regional subsidiary again. Same pattern. Too much growth. Not enough control. That's where systems fail. Not at the top. Inside, I made my first move. Not against him. Around him. I approached a vendor connected to that subsidiary. They were losing money. Bad terms. Delayed payments. I offered restructuring. Better contracts. Faster cycles. They agreed. Quietly. That gave me visibility. Invoices. Timelines. Internal delays. I mapped everything. Year 4. I expanded again. More clients. Higher stakes. I started acquiring small positions. Not in his company. In companies connected to it. Suppliers. Logistics partners. Service providers. Each one small. Together. Control. Not obvious control. Influence. At home. Things changed too. My mother stabilized. She found work again. Accounting. Smaller scale. More control. She stopped talking about him. I did too. But for different reasons. She moved on. I prepared. One evening, she asked, "Are you doing this for revenge?" I answered directly, "No. I'm building something he can't remove." She nodded. She understood. Year 5. The system was ready. I had access points inside his network. Vendors depended on my restructuring. Partners trusted my analysis. And I knew exactly where the pressure was highest. That same subsidiary. Still growing. Still unstable. Still ignored at the top level. Because on paper it worked. In reality, it didn't. Then the announcement came. Public. Formal. My father was updating his estate structure. New will. New distribution. Everything moving to Claire and her son. Clean. Final. No mention of me. No mention of my mother. Complete removal. That was the moment. Not emotional. Operational. Because the will is not just about money. It's about structure. Ownership. Control. Authority. And he made one mistake. He assumed control stayed at the top. He forgot what happens when control shifts underneath. I didn't react publicly. I didn't call. I didn't argue. I made one decision. I would attend the reading. Not as his daughter. As something else. Because by that point, I wasn't outside his world anymore. I was already inside it. And he didn't know. The will reading was scheduled for Monday. 10 a.m. Downtown office. Private conference room. I arrived 10 minutes early. Not as his daughter. As a representative. Black folder. Formal notice. Legal access. No one questioned it. Because by then, I had built something that didn't need permission. Inside the room, my father sat at the head of the table. Claire next to him. Her son Ethan across. 2 attorneys. 1 financial advisor. No one looked at me twice. That was expected. People only notice what they recognize. The reading started. Assets. Properties. Liquid accounts. Company shares. Everything transferred to Claire. A controlled distribution. Structured. Final. No disputes expected. That's what the lawyer said. Then he paused. Before we finalize, there is an attached amendment requiring acknowledgement of external contractual obligations. My father looked confused. This wasn't discussed. The lawyer checked the document again. It's registered under associated entities tied to Brown Holdings. That got his attention. I opened my folder. Spoke clearly. I represent those entities. Now he looked at me. Not as a daughter. As a problem. Claire leaned forward. What is this about? I didn't look at her. I addressed the lawyer. Before distribution, all obligations must be disclosed. He nodded. Correct. I placed the first document on the table. Vendor restructuring agreements. 5 companies, each legally independent, each financially tied to his subsidiary, each now partially controlled by me. My father read quickly, then slower, then again. This is irrelevant to the will. I answered immediately. It affects valuation. The financial advisor spoke. She's right. If these agreements shift cash flow. He stopped mid-sentence. He saw it. I placed the second document. Debt restructuring. His subsidiary had hidden liabilities. Not illegal, but misaligned. Delayed reporting. Rebalanced contracts. All within legal limits. All now triggered. Claire's tone changed. What does this mean? I answered without pause. It means projected revenue drops, costs increase, asset value changes. The advisor ran quick numbers. Significant impact. My father leaned back, silent, thinking. For the first time, he wasn't in control of the room. Then he asked, "What do you want?" Straight to the point. Good. I answered the same way. Nothing from the will. That confused everyone. Even him. I continued. "I want acknowledgement." Claire frowned. Of what? I looked directly at my father. That I am part of this system. Silence. Not emotional. Strategic. Because this wasn't about inheritance. It was about position. He responded slowly. "You're interfering." I corrected him. "I'm involved." The lawyer stepped in. "We need clarity. Are these agreements active?" I answered, "Yes." "Binding?" "Yes." "Reversible?" "No." The advisor closed his laptop. "This changes everything." Claire's voice sharpened. "So she's blackmailing us?" I turned to her for the first time. "No. I'm stabilizing what you don't understand." That hit. Because it was true. She knew the lifestyle, not the system. My father stood up. Meeting paused. He walked toward the window. Back to us. Thinking. Calculating. I didn't interrupt. Pressure works best in silence. After a minute, he turned. Outside. We stepped into the hallway. Just the two of us. First time in 5 years. He looked at me carefully. "You built this." Not a question. A statement. I nodded. "How much control do you have?" "Enough." He processed that. "You've been planning this?" "Yes." Another pause. Then, "Why now?" I answered directly. "Because you finalized your structure." He understood. "Timing. You could have come to me." "No." "Why?" "Because you don't negotiate with what you think you own." That stayed in the air. He asked the real question next. "What happens if I ignore this?" I answered without emotion. "Then your system corrects itself." He knew what that meant. Contracts shift. Vendors adjust. Costs rise. Pressure builds. Slow collapse. Not immediate, but guaranteed. He looked at me differently now. Not as a daughter. As an equal variable. "What's your end position?" I answered clearly. "Structural recognition." He narrowed his eyes. "Define it." I stepped closer. "Access. Transparency. Decision visibility." He shook his head. "You're asking for influence." I corrected him again. "I already have influence." Silence. Again. Then he said something unexpected. "You're not doing this for money." I didn't respond. He continued. "You're doing this because I removed you." That was the closest he came to truth. I answered, "I'm doing this because you underestimated me." That ended the conversation. We walked back into the room. Everyone looked at us. Waiting. My father sat down. Composed. Controlled again, but different. He addressed the lawyer. "We delay finalization." Claire reacted immediately. "No. We're finishing this." He didn't look at her. "This needs review." The lawyer nodded. "That's reasonable given new information." Meeting adjourned. Documents collected. No resolution. But the shift already happened. As people left, Claire stopped me. "This isn't over." I answered calmly. "No. It's just starting." I walked out. No rush. No hesitation. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting to his decisions. He was reacting to mine. And that changes everything. The delay gave him time. Time to investigate. Time to trace connections. Time to understand how far this went. I expected that. So I didn't hide anything. I made it visible. Within 3 days, he contacted 2 of the vendors. Both confirmed the same thing. New terms, new structure, better stability, and one more detail, all managed through my firm. He expanded the search. Partners, advisors, Internal reports. Every path led back to the same point. I wasn't outside his company. I was embedded around it. That's when pressure started. Not publicly. Internally. The subsidiary showed strain first. Payments slowed. Suppliers demanded new schedules. Margins dropped. Not failure. Adjustment. But enough to create attention. Board members started asking questions. Why is this unit underperforming? Why were these contracts renegotiated externally? Who approved this structure? He had no direct answer, because technically, he had approved none of it. At the same time, my network expanded. More vendors approached me, not because I forced them, because they saw results. Faster payments, clear contracts, no delays, efficiency spreads. Week 2 after the meeting, I made the second move. I acquired a minority position in a mid-level logistics partner. Small on paper, critical in function. They handled routing coordination between 3 of his key regions. No one pays attention to routing until it changes. I didn't disrupt operations. I optimized them. Routes adjusted. Timing improved. Costs shifted. Slightly, but consistently. That created a new pattern. His system became dependent on my adjustments. Not officially. Functionally. Week 3. He requested a meeting. Private. No lawyers. No advisors. I agreed. We met in his office. Same building. Same chair. Same desk. Different position. He didn't offer coffee. Good. No distractions. He started directly. You've created leverage. I answered. No. I revealed it. He leaned forward. You're affecting operations. Yes. Why? I didn't change tone. Because I can. He watched me carefully. You want control. I corrected him. I want alignment. That word mattered. Because control implies takeover. Alignment implies integration. He stood up. Walked to the window again. Same habit. You could damage everything. I answered. No. I could. But I'm not. He turned. Then what's your objective? I said it clearly. I want structural entry. He narrowed his eyes. You want a position in my company? No. Pause. I want a position in the system you depend on. That forced him to think differently. Because he already depended on it. He just didn't define it as mine. He sat back down. You've already inserted yourself. Yes. So what changes if I agree? I placed one document on his desk. Not legal. Strategic. A full breakdown of his subsidiary. Weak points. Delays. Hidden risks. And one projection. Collapse timeline. Not dramatic. Precise. If nothing changes, I said. This unit fails in 18 months. He read it. Didn't interrupt. Then I added, with integration, 6 months to full stability. He looked up. You're offering a solution to a problem you created. I shook my head. No, I'm offering a solution to a problem you ignored. Silence. Because that was the truth. He asked one more question. What do you get in return? I answered immediately. Visibility. Influence. Access to decisions affecting the system. He leaned back. That's power. I didn't argue. Because it was. He stayed quiet for a long moment. Then, you planned this for years. Yes. For this conversation? Yes. That mattered. Because now he knew. This wasn't reaction. It was design. He made his decision slowly. We integrate your structure. I didn't react. He continued. Limited scope. Controlled access. Review period. I nodded. Because that was enough. Not full control. Not ownership. Entry. And once you're inside, position grows. We formalized it within a week. Officially, my firm became a restructuring partner. Unofficially, I became part of his system. Meetings started. Weekly reports. Shared data. Operational visibility. I didn't change everything. I adjusted key points. Cash flow improved. Delays reduced. Vendors stabilized. The subsidiary recovered. Faster than projected. Board members noticed. Who implemented this? Why wasn't this done earlier? Who's managing this transition? My name came up. Repeatedly. Not as a daughter. As a solution. Claire reacted next. She requested her own meeting. You're inserting yourself into his company. I answered calmly. I'm stabilizing it. You're doing this to get back at us. I shook my head. No, I'm doing this because you don't understand what you're part of. She didn't like that. You think you're smarter than everyone. I corrected her. I think in systems. You think in positions. That ended the conversation. Because positions can be removed. Systems cannot. Month 2, the subsidiary stabilized completely. Month 3, profitability increased. Month 4, expansion resumed. But now, under my structure, my father watched everything, didn't interfere, didn't stop it, because stopping it meant losing control again. One evening, after a board update, he said something for the first time. You built something I didn't see. I answered. You chose not to look. That was the closest we got to acknowledgement. But it wasn't the final move. Because control wasn't the goal. Recognition was. And one thing was still unresolved. The will. The will was still unresolved. Delayed. Paused. Waiting for final structure. For months after the first meeting, a new date was set. Same office. Same room. Different balance. This time, I wasn't an unknown variable. Everyone in that room knew exactly who I was. I arrived on time. No folder this time. I didn't need documents. The system already spoke for me. Inside, my father at the head, Claire next to him, Ethan silent, lawyers ready, advisor present. The atmosphere changed. Not tense. Measured. The lawyer began. Revised estate structure. Adjusted based on updated corporate positioning. That phrase mattered. Corporate positioning. Not family. Not emotion. Structure. Assets listed again. Properties. Accounts. Shares. Then the shift. Operational control segments assigned through advisory governance. Claire interrupted. What does that mean? The advisor answered. It means part of the system is now dependent on external management. She looked confused. External? He nodded. Yes. He didn't say my name. He didn't need to. The lawyer continued. Due to integration and performance dependency, those segments are assigned conditional authority through existing agreements. My father didn't look at me, but I saw it. He had accepted it. Claire didn't. This wasn't part of the plan. He finally responded. It is now. That ended her objection. Not emotionally. Structurally. The lawyer moved to final allocation. Claire and her son received ownership. Majority assets. Primary estate. On paper, nothing changed. Then the last section. Execution control and operational oversight tied to active system dependencies. Pause. Assigned to Isabella Brown through contractual authority. Silence. Claire spoke first. So she gets nothing but controls everything? The advisor answered calmly. She controls what sustains it. That distinction mattered. Ownership is static. Control is dynamic. My father signed. No hesitation. Because by that point, he understood. You can transfer assets, but you cannot transfer dependency. The lawyer closed the file. Finalized. No applause. No emotion. Just completion. As people stood up, Claire looked at me. Angry. Confused. You planned this from the start. I answered simply. No. I built it. She didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to argue. Ethan avoided eye contact. The advisor nodded slightly as I passed. Professional respect. And my father waited until the room was empty. Then he spoke. You didn't ask for the inheritance. No. Why? I answered directly. Because I didn't need it. He nodded. Another pause. You could have taken everything. I corrected him. I did. That was the truth. Not in assets. In position. He looked at me carefully. For 5 years you said nothing. Yes. And this was the result. Yes. He leaned back. That's not revenge. I answered. No. Pause. It's structure. That was the final understanding between us. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Clarity. I didn't stay. I didn't try to rebuild anything personal. Because that wasn't the goal. I left the building. Same doors. Same street. Different outcome. 5 years ago, I walked out with one suitcase. No access. No position. No control. Now, I walked out with none of his assets, but full influence over the system that sustained them. And that's the difference most people miss. You don't need to take everything from someone if everything they have depends on you. That's what he never saw coming. Not anger. Not confrontation. Integration. I didn't destroy his world. I became the part he couldn't remove. And that's a different kind of ending. If you made it this far, you already understand the lesson. Don't fight for a position. Build something that makes positions irrelevant. If this story stayed with you, like the video, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe, because the next story goes even deeper.